Hi, I'm Strozyk, and I'm going to be reading Problems at the North Pole. After Santa Claus delivers all the presents on Christmas Eve, he returns to the North Pole to celebrate. On Christmas Day, he and Mrs. Claus, the elves, and the reindeer open their gifts. Then they relax and enjoy a delicious lunch. For dessert, Mrs. Claus prepares her special plum pie, Santa's favorite dish. He knows he is sure to take a second slice, or even a third. So Mrs. Claus bakes plum pie only on Christmas because Santa does have a bit of a weight problem. The day after Christmas, everyone at the North Pole returns to work. They must begin to prepare for the next Christmas. Mrs. Claus checks her supplies for making candy canes and baking cookies. "Let me see," she says. "I'll need 10,000 tons of flour, 30,000 tons of sugar, and 300 gallons of vanilla, 600 pounds of cinnamon, and 200 truckloads of chocolate chips." The elves sweep the workshop and sharpen their wood carving tools. They order thousands of needles, miles of thread, stuffing for dolls, wheels for bicycles, blocks of wood, and gallons of paint in every color. The reindeer jog around the track and practice leaping high into the air. They know they must keep in perfect shape for the once-in-a-year trip. At his office, Santa reads the mail and updates the list of children's names. Some people think that Santa still writes his list by hand, but he no longer does that. His secretary, Mrs. Bumby, now enters all the information onto a new computer. And no matter what the popular song says, Santa does not have to check his list twice. The computer has a super spell check and a speedy zip code finder. Everyone at the North Pole works very hard all year long. They know how important it is to have everything ready for next Christmas Eve. This is the way it has always been. That is, until last year. Last year, something very terrible happened. The problem began on a cold morning in late November. As Santa was reading his mail, he discovered a colorful folder that read, "Escape from the cold, fly to Hawaii for half price." Santa always liked to find a good bargain, and he loved sandy beaches and sunny skies. He could almost feel the warm sunlight on his face and hear the ocean waves splash against the shore. Suddenly, a blast of cold Arctic wind hit against the window and made Santa shiver. Right then and there, he decided he had to go to Hawaii. Without telling anyone, he wrote a check and mailed it that very day. Mrs. Claus soon noticed that Santa had something on his mind. Each day when she said, "Good morning, Santa," he would smile and reply, "Aloha." The elves also noticed that Santa was acting strangely. Several days later, they saw him suddenly start to wiggle back and forth. They wondered if Santa was shivering from the cold or if he was trying to do a hula dance. Even Miss Bumby noticed Santa's strange behavior. Before she could open the mail each morning, he would rush and rummage through the stacks. He seemed to be looking for a special letter. Before that special letter arrived, Santa ripped open an envelope and looked inside. Then he yelled, "Ho, ho, ho," and ran straight into the house. "The tickets are here," he shouted, holding them out. "Get ready, Mrs. Claus, we're going to Hawaii for a vacation." "Have you lost your mind?" she exclaimed. "We can't take a vacation. There's too much work to be done." And then, something that had never happened before, Mr. and Mrs. Claus got into an argument. Minutes later, Santa stomped out of the house, carrying his suitcase. "Then I'll go to Hawaii without you," he announced stubbornly. And that is exactly what Santa did. He jumped onto his jet-propelled skis, and with a puff of smoke, he headed across the snow and toward the airport. The elves, Miss Bumbley, and the reindeer didn't know what to do, so they kept on working. When Santa got off the airplane in Hawaii, the girls in hula skirts slipped flower lace around his neck. They greeted him with the one word that he wanted to hear, "Aloha." During his vacation, Santa enjoyed sunning himself on the beach and swimming in the ocean. He even learned to ride a surfboard, and Santa didn't worry about a thing. He was sure that Mrs. Claus, Miss Bumbley, and all the elves and the reindeer were busy getting everything ready for Christmas. But back at the North Pole, things were not going as Santa supposed. After Santa had left, Mrs. Claus didn't come out of the house. She even stopped baking cookies for the elves' morning coffee breaks. The elves began to worry about her. After a few days, one of them tiptoed into the house and peeked through a window. He could hardly believe what he saw. There sat Mrs. Claus in a comfortable chair. She was wearing a swimming suit, sipping lemonade, and reading a book. When the other elves heard that Mrs. Claus wasn't working, they decided they would not work either. Instead, they played video games all day long. And at night, they stayed up late playing dominoes and eating popcorn. When Miss Bubbly saw no one else was working, she stopped opening mail, and all she did was watch her favorite soap operas on television. When the reindeer found out that Mrs. Claus, the elves, and Miss Bubbly were not working, they stopped doing their daily exercises, and instead of running and leaping, they listened to music and munched on cinnamon cookies. They grew lazier and fatter by the day. If Santa had known that all the work at the North Pole had come to a complete stop, he would have taken the next airplane home. But Santa did not know. When his 2-week vacation ended, Santa flew home on Arctic Airlines. He was eager to see the new toys the elves had made. He hoped Mrs. Claus had forgotten all about their argument. Perhaps she had even baked some extra cookies just for him. As he skied away from the airport, he felt a sudden rush of Christmas spirit. He sang Jingle Bells all the way home. But when he reached the North Pole, he was surprised to find that no one was working. The reindeer were not running on the track, the elves were not carrying boxes to the warehouse, and he didn't smell cookies baking either. "What's going on here?" he demanded to know as he entered the house. "Oh, you're back," Mrs. Claus replied calmly as she dried her fingernails. "Did you have a nice time on your vacation, dear? Why isn't everyone working?" he asked excitedly. "We decided to take a vacation too," she replied sweetly. Santa's tanned face turned deep red, and he walked straight to his office. The mail was stacked high in every corner. Miss Bubbly, of course, was not at the computer. She had gone home early. For a long time, Santa sat at his desk and thought about the problems he had caused. He knew that he had no one to blame but himself. The next morning, Santa called a meeting. "Christmas is only 2 weeks away," he said sadly. "I don't think we can finish all the presents in time. We'll have to announce that there will be no Christmas this year." "We can't do that," Mrs. Claus exclaimed. "Just think about how disappointed the children will be." "I know," Santa sighed, "but what can we do?" "I'm willing to work overtime," Miss Bubbly offered. We'll work double shifts," the elves volunteered. "I'll heat up the extra ovens," Mrs. Claus said. And the reindeer stretched their legs and began doing knee bends. "Okay," Santa agreed. If we work day and night, perhaps we can save Christmas after all." So everyone set off to work immediately. The elves hurried to the workshop and started the toy-making machines. Mrs. Claus lit all of the ovens and mixed up huge batches of cookie dough. The reindeer jogged, jumping and leaped. They took turns bouncing on the trampoline, and they did aerobic dancing and shake off the extra pounds they had gained. Miss Bubbly quickly opened the mail and began adding more children's names to Santa's list. Santa was busy too. He helped the elves make toys. He helped Mrs. Claus decorate cookies and pipe the candy canes. He rubbed the reindeer's sore muscles and liniment and turned on the jacuzzi. He helped Mrs. Bubbly check the computer printout. By working all day and night, the elves finished the toys by Christmas Eve. Mrs. Claus filled her pantry with mounds of goodies and stuff in the children's stockings. Miss Bubbly completed the list of names, and the reindeer were in perfect shape and ready to go on their long journey. But there was one more problem. When Santa put on his earth suit, it didn't fit. "Oh no," Mrs. Claus gasped. "You lost too much weight." Thinking quickly, she handed Santa a pair of suspenders and told him to fasten his trousers. Then she stuffed pillows under his jacket. "You're thin enough to eat all the plum pie you want this year," she said with a smile. "I'll do just that," Santa laughed, and he and Mrs. Claus hurried outside. Everyone cheered as Santa climbed into his sleigh. He cracked his whip and yelled, "On Dancer, on Cupid, on Donner, and Blitzen." and all the rest of you were off, proudly wearing their new Reeboks. The reindeer scattered the snow as they raced across the ground. Then, with a mighty leap, they sprang into the air, taking Santa and his sleigh full of toys over the treetops and into the starry night. You can be sure that no one at the North Pole will ever forget the year that they almost missed Christmas. And Santa has promised that he will never again take a vacation during winter. But to make certain that Santa keeps his promise, Mrs. Claus has given special instructions to the secretary. Each morning, Miss Bubbly is to remove all vacation folders before Santa sees them in.